Line of Duty has to be one of the most critically acclaimed British television programmes in the modern day and is one of the BBC's well-known drama series. In today's video, I'm going to share my thoughts on every single sort of season and episode in a wrap-up review and basically explore the details of the show as well. Stick around to find out what I think. Did people really think that an anti-corruption police unit would be an interesting TV watch and would keep people hooked for almost 6 seasons? Well, to be honest, it doesn't really sound that exciting, and the information and sort of general consensus from a normal policing point of view isn't the best unit to work for. But with the writers and creators being able to format the show in a specific sort of way, it's really enabled people to become interested in the police force and interested in the anti-corruption unit. In the show, we follow stories of 3 main characters, and they are Ted Hastings, the leader of the anti-corruption unit, Kate Fleming, she is one of the pair of detectives that work on the cases below Ted Hastings and is also part of the anti-corruption unit, and then you also have Steve Arnott, and he is basically the main guy. He's a bit promiscuous and gets into a lot of trouble, especially with females, and you'll see that throughout the story. But he is a very, very great character, and as this sort of like trio, they work really, really well together as a team. The show itself comprises of 6 seasons, as I mentioned just a minute ago, and it has spanned for almost 10 years. So when we actually take into account all these different seasons and episodes and clips and bits and bobs like that, you really need to think that there are 10 years of content streams that we are going to be taking into account. I joined the season when it began in season 3. So I watched season 3 with my parents, and then I recapped season 1, season 2, and have stayed a fan since then and stayed up to date with all the information, especially when a new season comes out. That is the difficult thing that the show's creators are starting to run into, I think, especially in the later seasons, as we've got all these main plots that are at the surface, and then you've got all these subplots that are recalls from older seasons that still play a large amount of relevance into the main plots of the stories. So it does get quite complicated, and I will try and explain that a little bit in more detail as we go through this episode. As I briefly alluded to, literally just a couple of minutes ago, when you have this wealth of information and content, and you have even more stuff just dropped on your doorstep of things you need to remember, you actually normally need to look at a recap. So whenever a new season comes out, especially for like season 6, there are recap videos explaining what acronyms mean, the people that are involved, and also characters that may be featuring in season 6 that have been called back from other seasons. So for example, AFO. Didn't know what that meant when I started watching it, but it means an armed firearms officer. So there are loads of different things, like MIT means Murder Investigation Team. You've got all these different acronyms that the police force actually use, and the writers and creators try and merge those into the drama series to make sure things are as accurate as possible. Obviously the unit itself, AC-12, does not exist because there are no there are anti-corruption units, but they're not labelled anti-corruption. They're more labelled towards like police conduct and police misuse and stuff like that. But they are based off real life sort of units, not necessarily events, but units and the investigations that take place. Especially when you're dealing with the police force and you're looking at anti-corruption, you can sort of paint the picture that when you're an anti-corruption officer, you may not necessarily be liked as much as standard beat and patrol officers, mainly because you will be reporting and investigating other officers that are basically part of the police force. You're hunting out one of your own. Obviously it's in relation to misconduct or misuse or stuff like that, but you are basically hunting your own. You are looking for problems or issues within other people's work, and they can actually be sent to jail for their job. So it's one of those jobs in the real world that is very, very, very difficult to do, and especially when looking at Line of Duty is also another very difficult issue to sort of portray to an audience. The audience for Line of Duty obviously needs to keep up with this huge wealth of content over the past 10 years, and also obviously look at all these sort of seasons to make sure they know who the characters are, who's involved in the seasons, what relationships people have, how people could be involved, all that sort of stuff. And then to pile that on, you actually have current sort of topics and issues that they're focusing on. So especially in season 6, we had the main plot of trying to investigate anti-corruption in relation to one of the main characters. She'll appear just here for you to remind you who she is. I've forgotten her name. Wonderful. But the main point of this story is to investigate this lady here. But as we have this main plot story, so we've got the plot story up here, just running along straight across screen, we also have a subplot. And this subplot has been happening basically since the end of season 3, but also was in process throughout season 3 as well. And this is towards the H character. So this H character is someone that is very, very high up, or people that are very high up in the police force that are inciting corruption and making sure police officers don't do their job properly and make sure that they're criminals at the end of the day. And this subplot has been taking place, like I said, at the end of season 3 with Doc Cotton's escape, which was one of the best sort of events in the Line of Duty season franchise, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. And then it progresses through season 4, season 5 and season 6. And when we get to season 6, they supposedly catch H. But it didn't really seem like a great wrap-up. For me, especially, being a long-time fan of the show, catching H in the way they did, with Ian Buckles being the culprit, I didn't really like the ending, and quite a lot of long-term fans didn't enjoy it either, mainly because it didn't really make too much sense. It made sense in a narrative form of the ways in which they led on for people to believe that he was H, but it just felt like it fell short of the ending that we were expecting. We were expecting a huge reveal, especially after the huge events like Season 3's finale and Season 5's finale. We were really looking for something special, and it didn't really give us that edge. It was more like oh, here's H, turns out it's Ian Buckles, there you go, H's story has been wrapped up. It's a load of old baloney, really. I'm not surprised, or I won't be surprised, if they end up announcing a Season 7, but I don't think Season 7 will be any better than Season 6. I think the writing team are having a problem, especially now, struggling to push out more and more. When they started out, they didn't have much content to work with, so Season 1 and Season 2 were more like backstory sort of things. Season 3 progressed onto that and really worked on the story, and I think added to the emphasis of the sort of Line of Duty aspect. And Season 3 is probably where everyone cemented their foundations, and in my opinion, was the best season that we have had. Then when we progressed through to Season 4, Season 5, it was almost there, almost to Season 3's level, but didn't quite match it. They were still really, really good introductions to other characters, but I still think that the plots didn't really get to the point that I was needing. When we moved over to Season 6 though, I think it just got a little bit too dry. They played with content a little bit too much and for too long, and it just didn't quite work. I've stuck with Line of Duty ever since it has come out, and I'm really, really looking forward to the things that they can produce in the future in relation to more seasons, maybe exploring character stories, and all those little bits and bobs. But I'm worried, especially with pushing out a Season 7, I'm worried it's not going to be as great as it could be. I'm scared that it's not going to lead up to the Season 3 finale that I saw. It's just, it's difficult. When you have all these sort of complex storylines, narratives, all interwoven and working together and forming this mesh, and like I said, you've got the main story, you've got the subplots, all this sort of stuff, it gets really overwhelming. And it is very, very difficult for newer viewers to actually indulge themselves in this sort of narrative. The writers, Jed Mercurio, the guy that's basically the brainchild behind this, also The Bodyguard, that is a great series, watch that as well, that's fantastic. He mentioned in an interview when people were outlining like sort of the effects of the Line of Duty franchise and if someone could join the season so late on, especially in Season 6. The way that he phrased it is he said that any viewer, old or new, could be introduced into the Line of Duty lineup and would be able to enjoy the sort of main plot and would be able to explore the story as a whole for the single season. But in all aspects of the words, that isn't necessarily true, because all of these plots that are main plots now are also retroactively linking to subplots, and it's very, very difficult to carry on working on the main plot if you've still got this huge subplot working on in the background. I am always looking forward to content that is being produced by the BBC, especially by their drama department and also by Jed Mercutio, mainly because he is a fantastic writer and I have always loved the Line of Duty seasons. It's had its ups and downs, especially with cliffhangers and people being involved that shouldn't necessarily be involved. It's all a little bit confusing, but as an overall, I would really plead you to go and watch the season if you would like to. From the outset, it doesn't sound like it's going to be that exciting. Anti-corruption doesn't sound fantastic or amazing, but honestly, if you enjoy a drama season, it will be to your liking, and I have always enjoyed it, and I will be sticking with it into the future. That has been all for today's video. If you like these videos and wrap-up reviews, and with me sharing my thoughts of Line of Duty, if you don't mind hitting like on this video, it really helps the channel out. And if you hit subscribe as well, you can stay up to date with more content. That's been all for today's wrap-up review. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll stick around, especially to see the next sort of videos that are coming out in the future. That's been all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.